Hey everybody, back with another message that God has spoken to me. I'm actually going to be posting two videos today. One of them is just going to be like a short 5-minute message that God wanted me to speak to you guys, and the other one is going to be more of like a sermon type thing. So I'm going to be looking at the book of Joshua, and I don't know if all Bibles are like this or not, but my Bible gives an introduction to each book, so whatever story you're in, it kind of gives you a rundown of what it's going to be about. So I'm going to start by reading that. Joshua was the man who took Moses' place. This book tells the story as he leads God's people into a new land. God told Joshua to be strong and brave. He promised to be with Joshua and to take care of him. With God's help, the people took over the new land. God led them across the river and into the land. He broke down the walls of strong cities. God kept his promise. He gave the people of Israel a home of their own. After the people took over the land, Joshua told them to obey God. He wanted the people to remember that God took care of them. He told the people to serve God always. So, if you start to read Joshua, it's basically continuing the story of when Moses led God's people out of Egypt, and they were in the wilderness, and that's when the Ten Commandments came. And that's when God spoke the Ten Commandments, and Israel, sinned, and they continued to sin, but God continued to forgive them, and he was leading them into the Promised Land. But Moses ended up dying, so Joshua was picked to lead the people into the Promised Land. So I want to go to Joshua chapter 4, and I'm going to read verses 1 through 7. It says, After the whole nation had gone across the Jordan River, the Lord spoke to Joshua. He said, Choose 12 men from among the people. Choose one from each tribe. Tell them to get 12 stones from the middle of the river. They must pick them up from right where the priest stood. They must carry the stones over with all of you, and they must put them down at the place where you will stay tonight. So Joshua called together the 12 men he had appointed from among the people of Israel. There was one man from each tribe. He said to them, Go back to the middle of the Jordan River. Go to where the ark of the Lord your God is. Each one of you must pick up a stone. You must carry it on your shoulder. There will be as many stones as there are tribes in Israel. The stones will serve as a reminder to you. In days to come, your children will ask you, What do these stones mean? Tell them that the Lord cut off the flow of water in the Jordan River. Tell them its water stopped flowing when the ark of the covenant of the Lord went across. The stones will always remind the Israelites of what happened there. So, there was a time when the Israelites and Joshua and his people, they had to cross the Jordan River, but it was, a strong current and they couldn't do that. So God ended up stopping the flow of water completely so they could walk across. It was almost like when he parted the Red Sea, when he used Moses to part the Red Sea. But this time he stopped the Jordan River from, flowing. So they walked across. And then after they all got across, then he made it flow again. So then that's when God told Joshua to send 12 people and to pick up stones. And if you remember what it said, they were used as reminders of what God did for them right there in that moment when he stopped the flow of the river. And the message God wanted me to speak to you guys today was, remind yourself of what God has done for you. Now, I want to make this clear too. We want to remind ourselves of what God has done, but we don't want to live in the past. So, like for example, I'm going to start doing this, and I think it's something that everybody should do. I've got this little notebook right here, and I've actually got this idea from a pastor named Steven Furtick. I don't know if you've heard of him or not. He's a great pastor, though. You should check him out if you haven't. But he was saying that he has this journal, and he writes down, like every night, things that he's thankful for. And that way, he is reminding himself of all the things that God has done. Because sometimes, if you're having a bad day, like it's hard to think of stuff that, went well and stuff that you're grateful for. And, it just kind of gets lost in all of the stuff that went wrong that day. And, sometimes in those types of days, we, when we go to bed and, the day's over, we don't, really have anything to thank God for or we don't think we do because, you know, it was such a bad day. But really, there's always something to be thankful for. Even in your worst day, there is always at least one thing you can be thankful for. So I want to challenge you guys to get a note. It doesn't have to be big, you know, it's a tiny notebook. And I just want you to, every night before you go to bed, just write down, you know, everything that you're thankful for in that day that God did for you, you know. And you may not think of stuff right away. It may take you a minute. Like Pastor Stephen Furtick even said that there's days where he doesn't, you know, it takes him like 5 minutes to begin writing, but once he does and he looks back at it, he realizes how much he's actually thankful for. And when we do that, it serves as a reminder of how good God really is and how much he really takes care of us. And when I said don't live in the past, you know, we can't stay in the past. God wants us to be reminded of what he's done for us, but he also wants us to keep moving. So it's okay to look back, it's good to look back and be reminded, but we can't stay. We can't stay there, we gotta keep moving. So I encourage everybody to start doing that. You know, it's good to be thankful. You know, we need to thank God for what he's done, but sometimes it is hard to do that. And, you know, there's days where it's just a hard day, it's just a bad day, and it's hard to be thankful, and it's hard to think of things that we're thankful for. But there's always at least one thing. So I encourage everybody to try this challenge, and you'll see that even in your worst days, there's quite a bit that went good that you just kind of forget about because of all the bad stuff that happened. So I encourage everybody to try this, and I comment below and let me know how that goes. Love you guys.